All right, once again, welcome, everyone. Thank you all for joining. Welcome to December. Getting ready to close out 2021 in a great way. Thank you all for joining today for our cafe conversation. We have a wonderful guest speaker today. For those of you who have heard it, you already know that you're in store for a treat. If you haven't had the opportunity to hear from her today, or hear from her yet, we have some wonderful information. She's got some awesome words of wisdom. She's going to be sharing some leadership skills and some of the things that we want to highlight as we close out the end of the year for you all. And many of you are members of the network, and many of you may not be members of the network. If you're not a member of the network, we encourage you to please join. We encourage all of our employees to join as many ERGs and participate as possible. So without further ado, let me go ahead and get started. Yusha King has been with AT&T for over 35 years and is a key contributor to AT&T's Women of Color and the network ERG's esteem programs. She brings with her experience developing complex work streams, business strategies, as well as leadership development programs. Without further ado, I would like to introduce you to everyone to Yusha King. Yusha, take it away.
All right, then, George, I sure do appreciate that. Let me know that you can definitely hear me. Give me a quick thumbs up. And then in the interim, I'm going to need you to make sure that I have presenting rights, because right now I can't share my slide deck. So while we get that quick shift on the way, there we go. I appreciate you very much. Hello, you amazing humans. It is an absolute honor to be here today with this particular group of individuals to have a conversation specifically about leadership, right? And what that looks like. Let me know when you can see the copy of the presentation. I'm going ahead and throwing it into presentation mode, so it should look full to everyone. Can you see that? Now, I've lost sight of a couple of your wonderful faces. So, Derek, it will be your role and responsibility. I am so glad to have you here, man. You don't know. You just don't know. It will be your responsibility to keep me in the loop with what's going on with this group of people, because they may think that because they're not on video. I did see someone just pop up there on video. Mary, way to go. If you don't mind, go ahead and throw the videos on the cameras, because this is an opportunity for all of you to operate within a safe space. And if we're worried about what's going on behind you, right? The real world is we work in a hybrid scenario now. And so you may have or see some other things going on behind me, but what's really important is what we're doing. So if you don't mind, there's Derek's. I see you out there, Derek's. I'll be calling on you in a little while too. So good to know that you are there. But if you don't mind, throw your cameras on. Let your peers know, let them see you, right? This is the only chance that we get to operate in this particular space right now, given the complexities by which we're working under. All right. All right. So that was just a couple of minutes for me to stall, to invite you to weigh in, to lean in. Let's go ahead and get started. As George said, my name is Yusha King, and you guys, if you don't already know me, you'll have an opportunity to get to know me and learn a little bit more about me as we go through the session. I want you to also know that I am not a talking head, not by any means. While brevity is not my strong suit, I plan to make this a conversation between us. So as much as I can, I want you to weigh in, lean in, and share your ideas and thoughts. I was very intentional about creating something that you all could do and we all could do together. So let's go ahead and try to do that. We're going to talk about the mirror and the window view of leadership. And I loved this particular topic and this particular perspective simply because it forces us as leaders to not only take a look at who we are and what we do, but specifically how we show up and how others see that. Okay. And I think that is right now. If you have any questions, all right, there you go. Look at George right there with me. See, can you tell that we have a dynamic quad going here, that we are tag teaming to get us through this? So as George said, if you have any questions, go ahead, throw them in chat. Let's get them going. And I will try and lend or respond to those as we go. All right. So first and foremost, I wanted to really find something that helps us to better understand this particular conversation. And I fell in love with this quote by Paulo, and It's all about the eyes are the mirror of the soul and reflect everything that seems to be hidden. All those things that we think aren't there, it's there. And like a mirror, they are also reflective. They reflect that person who's looking into them. I love that. And that's exactly what we're going to take a look at. We're going to look at what shows up in the mirror. That's a little bit about you. And then we're going to talk about, hey, what's showing up in the window? That's what you're showing other people and what other people are seeing about you. Okay. So I want you to start to think about that first and foremost. When you think about the mirror view, ask yourself, who am I? Who am I? You know, what do I do? What do I believe? What do I believe in? And even more importantly, because we're here representing the network. Do you guys see my shirt? All right, I'm rapping. I'm all right. I got it. We are here to represent the network. So who am I in the network? And how am I showing up? And then from a window view perspective, I want you to think about who are you and what are people actually seeing? Is that true? Right? Is there a difference between what you want people to know about you and what they actually are seeing and knowing? Because that's really what leadership is. I want you to maybe go back and reflect on and think about a time where you had an amazing leader or representative or role model. There are times when that light is shining that you want to attract yourself to that light. You want to be as close as you possibly can to that light. So that's what I want you all to do today. So for the time that we have together, and I promise I'm going to try and keep us on time because I care about that. For the time that we are together, I want you to think about you, and I want to think about you from the perspective of other people. I'm going to tell you that's pretty prevalent if you think about it in the current times that we're in right now. So I said this a minute ago. Some of you may or may not know me. All right, good thing. I'm sorry to disrupt you there. My son's in a doctor's office. Just need to know that he's okay. All right. So some of you may or may not know me, and that's okay. You have a couple more days to learn. My name is Yusha. Japanese means company. Depending on where you are in the globe or on the globe, depends on how you actually pronounce it. Mom was a little fancy here and she put an accent mark over the A and made it Yusha. Didn't always like it growing up, but I definitely love it now. It speaks a lot to my independence and my uniqueness. I am not going to clear this slide, but I did want to make sure that I was able to reach out and say and share just a little bit about myself so that you'd understand where this is coming from, that you'd understand the context in which I'm lending this information. So I come from a unique blended family. That's pretty important in our culture, as you guys all understand. And I'm fortunate enough that my mom and my dad and their new spouses are all best friends. So having that unique dynamic within my space, having my parents and my step parents as friends has been an awesome experience. And battling that with my siblings can also be a growth opportunity. All of this good stuff is what makes me me. And I get to bring that and wear all of those badges and umbrellas when I come into the workspace here at AT&T. I've been here about 35 years, 6 months to be exact. I am not counting days any longer. But for sure, throughout that time, I've had an opportunity to go in and out and around the business. I worked in a couple of different organizations led by a couple of different amazing leaders, and I've had the opportunity in my different roles and responsibilities within the business to interact and engage with those leaders on all different levels. And so a lot of what I'm going to talk about today is about my past work experience and the culture of working here at AT&T, and also how that translates and relates as it works out in industry and out in the world. Okay. And so if I talk to you a little bit, because I'm going to talk to you in a minute about value proposition, and I want you to be as aware of what that means as I am. But when I think about adding value, right, or how do I show up, or how do I add value to my team, one of the things is I'm just curious, not necessarily nosy, but I am really curious. I'm really curious, and I want to ask questions so that I can better understand. And if you really knew me, and if you've had the opportunity to meet me in person, then you know I really am all about relationships. I want to get to know you and how we can do this thing together so that we can elevate us as a whole, right? And whether us is the network and the communities that we represent, or the job and the role and the education and the training that I have from a professional perspective, whatever that is, how can we elevate us? Okay. All right. So that's a little bit of the context of me. So as I go through this conversation with you today, you understand that I really am coming from a good place, and that although I may say some things that are a little difficult and a little uncomfortable, that the reality is I'm saying them for our good. Okay. So that's a little bit about me. I've introduced myself. Now I want to talk more about you. As leaders in the business, one of the things that it is necessary for us to know how to do is to consider the strategic perspective of what's next, what's coming. You, in your role as the network, whether you're volunteering or you're leading a team and a chapter, you may have to figure out that not only for yourself, but you may have to also get that answer for your team. So we're going to start to evaluate, take a look at how do you go about figuring out what's next? Sometimes you have to do that in a time and a place when you really don't have any idea or know how to figure it out. When you're searching for the opportunity to get some clarity on what it is or how you want to make decisions. You guys have an upcoming event next week, and I cannot wait. And I do mean I cannot wait. I am a Carla Harris fan. I got a chance to work with the team that was working with her and ask her some really great questions during Leading with Distinction when I worked at TU. And Carla is dynamic. Earlier this year, also worked with Jaron Felder, who you guys will be hearing from with DeWanda. Come on, DeWanda Ricks, your very own. We'll have a conversation with Jaron, and they're going to talk about Carla's pearls. They're going to talk about how Carla tells you it's all about bringing your authentic self, showing up as you are. I'm not going to get too far into Carla because I could. But I'm going to stay in my lane, and I'm going to leave that for DeWanda and Jaron to sort of tap into. So put that on your calendar. Next week, December, I keep getting the dates confused. It's December 9th, I do believe. Yep, December 9th, I think, that you guys are going to have an opportunity to hear about Carla from some very dynamic folks in your group. But it's all about creating the clarity, right? As a leader in the business, you have to help others see their way, right? And sometimes you got to do that when you don't even know where or how to make that first step. That's the beauty of being transparent, being authentic, being a leader, is that you can share the journey. You can tell people, you can talk to people to sort of help make your way. What I'm going to do today is sort of get from you how it is that you're going to work and move the organization forward. How are you going to create the clarity? I had the opportunity, thanks to Deneen Garrett and some others, and also some other individuals who have been working on unique projects across the business, to hear from some of our leaders lately. And if you guys were at EG conference, you may have heard John when he said that our whole purpose, our whole focus for being is to drive this business forward. That's it. That's the reason why we're here. He asked the EG leaders, do you understand why you're here? Do you know why you're here today? So I ask you that. Do you know why you're here today? Well, you are here to drive the network forward. The way we're going to do that is we're going to gain some clarity for you as an individual and for you and your team on how to move forward. We're going to learn some new strategies, because everything that we're going to talk about today is an opportunity for you. So you're going to learn some new strategies, and you're going to learn from each other, because remember I said I'm going to ask you to weigh in, right? I'm going to ask you to lean in and share your perspective. So start tapping into chat. Start thinking about it. Get ready for a couple polls that we're going to go through to get some information from you. And so I want you to start to think about it. Just think about just a little bit. What are we doing and how do we do it? I'm going to start with the mirror perspective first, right? Let's start with us, right? Because I think that's where it begins. You really can't go fix somebody else until you check on yourself. So let's look at what mirror leadership is and what that means. It really is all about being very self-aware. How self-aware are you, right? Are you current? Are you making sure of what you know? Are you asking questions? Are you developing your skills, right? Are you doing what you need to do to be a well-rounded leader? Are you balancing those soft skills, those hard skills, those technical skills? Are you doing all of those things so that you can show up, right? And others can show up and thrive. But we're going to just stay on you for just a minute, okay? Let's talk about the you. Let's look at who are you? Let's look at maybe what do you believe? And let's ask the question, how do you lead, right? So if you're looking in the mirror, what do you see? I'll give you just a couple of seconds to think about that for yourself. What do you see when you look in the mirror? Right. Some of the things that we want to be responsible for and reflect upon when we look in the mirror is, how effectively are you communicating the vision and the priorities of this particular team and organization? If members of your particular board or chapter had to articulate the goals and the mission, right? If they had to articulate that, how well could they do that? How well could they represent you and your chapter? How do you manage your time? How does that lend toward the success of the organization that is the network? And the most important question, because I don't know if you know this or not, but feedback is a gift, right? Yeah, feedback is a gift. How open and receptive are you to receiving feedback from others? I mean, some of us, because this really is a culture, and I do enjoy my 35 years, but AT&T is a culture of more, more of the tell than the talk, right? And it's more or less telling you what you need to do. As leaders, that's what we do. We're often telling what needs to be done. But are we open to receive insight from others on how we may go about improving or how we may make things better? That's an opportunity. And those are some of the questions that I want you to begin to ask yourself as leaders as you sit within your particular role in the business. Okay. All right. I want you to also think about brand presence. Now, we hear about brand all the time. Now, I'm not talking about just your social media representation. I'm not just talking about brand and how we are as the big blue or the beautiful logo that is the network. Okay. I'm also talking about something a little different, and some of you had the opportunity to experience this during EBLE. But we heard from some amazing folks and leaders, thought leaders who came into the business and really gave us some additional insight. One particular tool of advice that I want to lend to all of you is the personal value proposition. Write that down if you don't know what that is. The PVP. The PVP is all about the work that you do and its alignment to your overall company's objectives. So it's not just what it is that you do, it's how does that add value? How does that align to what's expected of you in the space that you sit? Do you have a personal value proposition statement that clearly tells who you are? It's a little different than your elevator speech, right? A little different. It's a short sentence or two about the value and the benefit that you add to any particular space and or team. I want you, if you don't already have that, I want you to start working on a PVP. Know that I'm going to make sure that you guys have a copy of this deck along with the talk points. I'm also going to make sure that you have a copy of all of the material and resources that we use to get our research done to be able to come and have this conversation with you. So we're going to make sure that you have all of the tools that you need to be successful. Not going to just sit here and tell you what to do. We're going to give you some tools to help you do it along the way. Okay? All right. So if you haven't already, I want you to make sure that you're out there working to create that PVP that tells who you are and how what you do every day, what you're doing, how that aligns with the goals and the objectives of the business and the organizations and teams that you represent. And I'm going to tell you, this is a really, really good time to prepare that statement. You know why? Most of us should be preparing our end of years. And some of us know that our end of year statement depends on or helps determines how we get paid or how much we get paid. So it's a very important understanding to have about who you are and how you show up. All right, I beat that horse down. Let's keep moving. Okay. All right. As we move into this one, I want to get into this conversation and sort of stick here and land for a moment. Start talking to me and telling me in chat. What are some of your self-awareness tools and techniques? I'm curious. Give me some thoughts. Share your ideas with me. What do you do to ensure that you are self-aware? And then one better, what does that mean for you or mean to you? There's a lot of conversation about the value and the benefit. Oh, 360 feedbacks are always good. I like that. I like that. Thanks, Tiffany and others. What else? What are you doing to make sure that you're showing up and that you align? Well, let's talk about a couple of the things that are out there for us, okay? A couple of things that we have as options is just to do something to create. Thanks so much, Vanessa. There you go. Ask, how are you showing up? I love that. All right. First and foremost is to create a practice. And guys, I am working on myself. I talk a lot with my hands, and my mom keeps telling me that I have to do better. So I'll have you hold me accountable. See me doing that too much. But anyway, can we create a practice? That's what I'm trying to do. Not talk with my hands so much, right? I love hand language. Thanks, Vanessa. I appreciate you for valuing me. All right. But create a practice for yourself. I'm trying to work on me a little bit. I'm trying to heal some of my past hurts and pains. You know why? Because I keep bringing some of that trauma to work with me. You know, the past relationships or some of the, we'll call them transformations that didn't go very well. And those times where people weren't effective in the way that they were communicating. And it may have hurt the way I did things in the past. I'm trying to heal myself from that. Maybe I got in with the wrong click in one of my EGs and it just didn't work for me the way I was expecting. Well, I'm trying to be bigger than that moment and now elevate myself. I'm doing some training. I'm taking some classes. I'm developing my skills. I'm even coming up with new coping mechanisms, like trying to put my hands under the table so that I don't talk so much with my hands, or other things that I can do in order to become more and more self-aware about who I am and how I show up. I'm not looking out the window just yet. I'm still looking in the mirror. I'm looking at me, pointing the finger at me, taking ownership and owning what's mine. What am I responsible for? Do I have a unique? I tell you, I really do. I got a chance. I'm here visiting family in North Carolina. Used to be home, but I'm here in North Carolina and visiting with some amazing folks. And I got a chance to put my true board of directors circle around me and talk about some things that were really, really important. Things that are important about the next phase, right? We're talking about, how do I be strategic? How do I look out at my future? How do I start to look at what tomorrow looks like and who will be there to hold me accountable? Do you have a personal board of directors that you can go to, that you can ask some really good questions and say, hey, listen, I'm really trying to be a better human. I'm really trying to be a better steward. I'm really trying to be a better leader in my organization. And here's how I want you to hold me accountable. There's an opportunity to do that. We also have a tool that we use a lot of times from an organizational perspective here in the business. It's called the Circle of Trust tool. If you've had an opportunity to see the Women of Color content that's out there on PLB, if you haven't, okay, I'm gonna say one more time. It's a training about people of color, right? I mean, we pretty much know what that looks like, but there's this opportunity for us to help bring allies and other advocates and sponsors on board on how we can be better stewards. So there's a tool in there called the Circle of Trust. And what it asks you to do is to say, hey, on my left side of the list, who are my go-to people here at AT&T that I can rely on, that I depend on, right, when I need them? And now, who are those people outside of AT&T within my network that are my go-to? Now, there's an extra step in that, and I'll get deeper into that when I get into the next segment of the conversation. But there's an opportunity in there for you to ask yourself about the varying dimensions of differences, right? That there are cultural disparities, that there are unique differences that make us who we are. And when you think about those dimensions, it's not always about race and gender and sex. Sometimes it's about religious affiliations. Sometimes it's about, hey, our sororities and our fraternities in our space, right? There's this thing about colleges and universities. Where did you go to? We have a tendency to be very comfortable in the audiences and the spaces that we know so well. So is there a chance for you to maybe draw some other individuals to add to your diversity plate? But I'll talk more about that in a minute. Think about your circle of trust. Think about your personal board of directors. Who are the people that hold you accountable, that move you to the next step? And hey, there is nothing wrong with going out there to get some real help, whether it's formal or informal. Go get a coach. There are all different types of coaches. And let me tell you this, if you're in a leadership development program within the business already, ask for a coach during your next one-on-one. Find out whether or not there's a coach within your team. There's someone across the business that might be able to help you, someone else in a leadership program, or ask your supervisor and or mentor, can they partner you with someone who can be that source or become that resource for you? And if nothing else, use assessments. Some are free. We here in AT&T have a plethora of assessment tools that can be made available for you. George, remind me, send me a note. I'll send you guys the link to make sure that you have access to at least 4 free assessments that you can do right here within AT&T. Okay, all right, to find out more about yourself. So I think I also beat up self-awareness. What are some of the self-awareness tools that you might want to go and discover? Because here's the thing, that conversation that really started us here when we were talking about looking at the mirror view and creating clarity, all of those things, that starts with you. It begins with your inward look at self to better understand if we're going to drive the network forward, if we're going to move the network into that next place, right? We're going to move them into 2022 and beyond. It starts with you. So take some time to take a look at self, examine what is it that you need, what is it that you're doing, how you're showing up, and what opportunities do you have? Okay. All right. So all right, let's go get started with a couple of polls. You ready for me, George? I'll give you a couple minutes to start prepping that in the background. And hey, Derek, get your eyes on, man, because I know some of these folks on the call have some stuff that they want to say. So if it is all about creating that level of clarity, and if that's your role and your responsibility as a leader in the business, because I hear this a lot. I had this in one of the AVP working sessions that we had. There is this perception that, do you want, hold on. Okay, there we go. All right, so that first question, I see some other stuff up there. All right, cool. Is that for me? Do you want to say, okay? All right, there we go. Cool. So I heard this thing that sometimes we don't really know that we're leaders in the business. Everyone doesn't understand their responsibility as a leader. We are all leaders. We're all leaders in one capacity or another. So as a leader in the business, our first question to you is, what is it that you're reflecting? What do individuals see, right? What do they see? That's what we want to know and what we want to ask. So what are you reflecting? Are you reflecting the goals, your individual goals for the organization or your own individual um, aspirations? Or are you reflecting the team's goals and responsibilities? Even one bigger. Are you reflecting the organization? In this case, the organization is the network. So are you showing your goals? Are you showing other people who you want to be? Are you showing people what you want the team to be? Or are you showing the greater whole, the greater group of the organizational goals? Go ahead and let us know in your poll. Which one? Which one are you reflecting? And there is no wrong answer here. This is how we become more self-aware. This is where we begin. Which one are you reflecting? George, let me know how that poll's coming. Results there? All right, looks like the poll has ended. Drum roll. How are we doing as an audience? Derek, George, can you tell me that?
Sure, it looks like we got some good answers. It looks like we have quite a few folks who are saying that they reflect their goals, my goals, A. I think that's about 20%. And then for the team's goals, ours just went down just a bit. Bear with me 1 second.
Yeah, we're patient. This is a
Yeah,
safe space.
yeah. It looks like we have a pretty even distribution on my team's goals and my organization's goals.
All right. I like that. I like that, right? So showing that our focus is there, that means that there's an opportunity. There is an opportunity for you wherever you're not reflecting a presence of who you are and what you are shooting or aspiring to. There's an opportunity for growth. Let's do one more if we could. I have another question. I got to tell you, I don't know about you guys, but it has been a very long 2 years. It's been a long 2 years, and I'm only going to talk about the last 2 years. It's been a long lifetime, but it's been a long 2 years for sure. But I've learned right through there's the great resignation that's happening. There's a work shortage that's happening. There's this opportunity for us to grow and develop some of our skills. I want you to think about what skills, what one skill or attribute have you learned? I mean, I know I've learned patience and I might be in a better position to teach patience. I've also spent a little bit of time these last 2 years talking about microaggressions, and inside and outside the business. Thank you for that. I've had the opportunity to represent AT&T and on panels and others, and we've talked about microaggressions and other things. So I think that one sort of shows up in the health and wellness department. That's the tool or the coping mechanism that I would use there, right? Managing my own mental health. With a name like Yusha, being a person of color, that oneness syndrome, I think often there's an opportunity to share insights there. But I want to ask you as a team and as a group, what one skill or attribute have you learned over the last 2 years that you could be sharing with others? People keep talking about that. We don't have a strong enough pipeline. Well, let's go make one. Let's use our own skills and our own tools to ensure that the gets thicker, richer. All right. So, which skills are showing up? What are people been working on the last 2 years? Let me know, George. Derek, what are you seeing?
All right, looks like we have the majority are have learned A, leadership skills, followed closely by D, coping, health, and wellness skills.
Right. And great for us. We were talking about this most recently. I don't know, been a big thing on social media, a lot about the possibilities and the opportunities, right? I mean, we've seen in the sporting arena where individuals who are at the top of their game have come back and said, hey, listen, I need to take a break. I need to take a break. I gotta check on me. I gotta make sure that I'm okay to keep going. That's a lesson for all of us. That's a lesson and an opportunity for all of us to see. So I applaud if there's a greater percentage in health and wellness. It's all about taking care of our mental health. But it is also very important for us to recognize the opportunity to share. And that's why Derek's is also here with us. You guys have an amazing fellow who's been and doing some great stuff across the business and the organization. Hey, Derek, can you come off mute for just a second?
Sure. Hello.
Great. Hey, why don't you give the audience a little bit about who you are as part of the network? Congratulations on your new assignment, by the way. Let individuals.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. You're welcome. Let individuals know a little bit about you and what's your perspective on what you've learned.
Sure. My name is Direct Penn. I, like you, have a unique first name. So that's the thing I use in my toolbox, actually. Been with the company 23 years in various capacities. I've been with the network for a number of years, long before it was actually the network. Currently, I am with the Metro Atlanta chapter as an executive fellow. And I'll talk a little more about that program shortly. But through that program, I have been allowed to see different things, learn different leadership perspectives and aspects. And I was recently voted as the parliamentarian for the upcoming 2022 year. So that's just a little bit about me in a nutshell.
Awesome. Tell us a little bit more about, congratulations on the assignment again, and tell us a little more about the fellow program.
So the Executive Fellows Program was created by our esteemed Metro Atlanta chapter president, Frangela Merritt. In its essence, it is a leadership development and mentoring initiative that was designed to identify, nurture, and promote local members who have the desire and even the curiosity of becoming potential chapter leaders. So it's a wonderful, phenomenal program. I can't thank the Atlanta Metro chapter enough for creating such an initiative and having the vision to see it through. One of the things it's designed to do is to not only develop you as a leader, but also to have a talent pool of potential leaders for the network and for the company at large. So it's a phenomenal initiative, absolutely great program.
That is huge. I didn't know that did anybody else on the call know that was out there? I didn't. So thank you for even making me aware of the opportunities that it presents. And then that so much too. I had the pleasure of serving on a senior leaders mentoring circle and presenting to a group or an audience earlier this week. And that was one of the things that we talked about. And it is succession planning is just as important as planning out your career, right? It's an important because when we move into new roles and responsibilities, there has to be someone that we can recommend to come in and take that place. And if given the opportunity, right, now that you know that you're preparing yourself as a leader, being prepared for your new role, now you know what you also have to include in your development plan. It's also getting someone else ready to take your place. I think that's giving it back. That's creating the pool and pipeline that we were talking so much about. Derek, I'm going to ask you to come back again and share some more insight with us when we start to talk about it from an external perspective. Is that okay?
Sure.
Great. Thank you. All right. So let's keep going. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about leadership from an external point of view, right? That's looking out the window. Now, there are two perspectives here. Carol Dweck, and you often hear growth mindset when you hear Carol's name, right? That's all about leaders who are in a position to identify and build from it. But when things go wrong, right, there are some leaders who look out the window at their people and start pointing fingers when things go wrong. Oh, but when things are good, when things are going well, they take all the credit, right? And that's a little difficult to work under. It's a little difficult to work for. What we want to do, we want to work on being the type of leader that identifies that there is an opportunity when we look out the window. I love this particular story from Paulo. I'm going to give you guys an opportunity to sort of read through it. I'll give you the high point, right? So there was this gentleman, well-to-do, rich by some means, who had a conversation with a rabbi. And he asked the rabbi, how will I, or what should I do or know so I could have a good life? And the rabbi led him to a window and he said, hey, what do you see? He also led him to a mirror and asked him, what do you see? Okay. Because they're both glass, right? And they should have the same thing. But when the man looked out the window, he saw people and he saw things. When he looked into the mirror, he only saw himself. The rabbi asked him, can you not still see the other people when you're looking in the mirror? When you're in the mirror, are you still able to consider other people? Are you able to consider that it might have more to do with how they see you? So I'm in the window, looking out the window, and I'm looking at people. When I turn to look in the mirror, am I able to still consider those people? That's the role of a leader, right? There are times when you're only focused on yourself, and then there are those other times when you're focused on yourself and or others. So what is it that other people see about you when they're looking through the window? Here are some questions that you can ask yourself. And again, I'm going to hold on this space for just a minute. How do your biases show up in the workplace? That's right, people of color. How do your biases show up in the workplace? We all have them, right? I was talking about it a little earlier. Some of us have them because of our preferences for who we appreciate, the teams that we honor, the city and states that we live in, the schools that we went to. There is no place. I mean, think about what the domestic US looks like on a Sunday, right? On a Sunday morning. We're divided. We're in different places, in our places of worship. Okay. So how do our biases show up? I had the pleasure to sit in on, one of my peers did, to sit in on a panel interview. And during the panel interview, there were really very few questions. There was more conversation asked about and talk about sporting teams and affiliations from the school. There's a very good chance that someone might fill a position just based on who they know and where they went to school. And it may have very little to do with are they qualified. That's why it's so important for us to be a part of the conversation. Now, we can't always be at the table. You're going to learn that too when you hear about Carlos Pearls. Most of the decisions about your career and what affects you and your teams, these conversations are made and you are not in the room. You are not at that table. But that's okay. What conversations are you having when given the opportunity? Are you talking about things that are important? Are you asking very good questions? Are you using that curiosity to go deeper and to better understand yourself and your team? Are you creating an environment, a safe place where everyone is represented on your team? If your team looks just like you, I still guarantee you, you have a very diverse team because you have diverse perspectives. When we show up as people of color, we're not showing up and representing the entire class. I mean, sometimes we are. Sometimes we do have to be that person, right? But more times than not, we all have varying perspectives and stories and journeys that got us where we are. So are you, as a leader, creating a space where you're listening tentatively to other people and pulling and drawing from that? And this one came up a lot this year. Are you ready? Are you ready for opportunities? If you were in the, okay, just say that you could be in the elevator. If you're in the elevator with someone who has an opportunity, are you ready? Do you have your PVP ready to go? Do you know why and how you add value, how and why your team adds value, why your team is successful? Can you talk about the Atlanta Fellows Program and how you are preparing leaders and setting the pipeline, preparing and creating a strong pipeline for succession planning? Can we do that collectively? Are you ready? Well, you will be now. You absolutely will be now. And we already know this one, right? Representation matters. Of course it does. We can't be something if we can't see it. So again, how are we showing up? When we're collectively the group, are we representing the individual or are we representing the masses? Are there opportunities for us to pull some synergies across the chapters within the network so that we're all fighting smarter and not harder? Maybe. Could be. I believe so. And I believe we have the ability to find it. Okay. I want you to think about this as a leader too. How can you be more visible to your team? What are some things that you can do? Again, we're talking about this hybrid scenario, this hybrid world, right? What can you do? An interesting thing, a team I had a couple weeks back, they worked on the domestic side of the house, introduced Halloween, and the COE side of the house that sits in India introduced Diwali. And together we had a networking event that was called Dwaling, right? And it was great. It was an excellent opportunity for us to share some commonalities and recognize that really we all know this, right? More unites us than ever separates us. But there are other people who want us to believe otherwise. Okay. So George is going to go ahead and kick us off with another poll, because the question that I want to ask now is, as a leader, there's this opportunity for you to be more visible. How do you do that? Do you develop yourself and you tell others about what it is that you're doing, right? I just recently completed a certification, emotional intelligence. I wanted to be certified in the concept of emotional intelligence so that I could lend better 360 assessments to individuals. I think that's developing me. But I also made sure that it was a process that helped my team, right? Because others were certified in other areas. I chose to go and pick a new topic that differentiated us in some way. And then I believe that allowed us to develop together because I shared the idea. How can we be more visible? Let's see how that tally came out. What do we have as a result for that poll? Can you share with me, Derek or George?
Yes, you say, before we, George, if you don't mind, I wanted to just address a question that may relate to this from poll 2, if you don't mind, you say.
Absolutely.
I think it's a good segue, but the question was, my goal is to reflect the goals of the team and the organization, but I perceive the team mostly sees them as my personal goals. Any suggestions on how to change that dynamic?
Oh, I like that. I like that. Communication, effective communication is a great opportunity here, because if your perception is that it's all about the collective, but individuals are perceiving, right? Perception is the reality to that person. If the perception is that it's self-motivating, then maybe there's an opportunity for you to bridge the gap, right? And help them understand how this benefits you, but how this also benefits the team. So maybe there's a new way or a better way of doing that explanation and being clear about why and how it benefits you, but how it also adds value to the team. Going back to that PVP, I think that that's a great opportunity and example of such. Thanks for that question. Any others in there, Derek, that we might be able to answer?
That's it for now. We may have some after the next poll, but that's it for now.
All right, great. All right, then let me know, George or Derek, what were the results of the poll? Developing self, team, or developing together to be more visible?
So the overwhelming majority here shows develop together.
I like it. I like it. I like it. I like it. And let's do something with that. Let's take that back, because I'm not going to just make this conversation about the attendees that are here. Let's also make this conversation about the leaders of the network. K leaders of the network. Looks like about 47% or 47 people. Oh, no, I'm sorry. 15 of those people opted to develop together, right? They want to work and develop together. So are we, as the leaders of the network, creating opportunities for our leaders and members to develop and learn from each other, with each other? There's an opportunity for us there. All right, let's get back to that presentation. Let me know that, oh, I almost left the meeting, guys. I almost left the meeting. Oh, I almost left the meeting. Let me know that you can see my slides again. Are we good? George?
Not yet. It should be handing over presenter rights to you right now.
Great, great. Let me know. Let me know when you see them.
Not just yet.
All right, hold on. I might need to go back into sharing mode.
Let's see.
It's all right. We'll get there. Cool beans. Let me know that you're there. All right.
There you go.
Cool. All right. Thank you, Mary. See, I know there's some folks out there staying with me. Thank you, Mary, for keeping me on it. All right. So one more thing I want us to do this one in. Can we do this one in chat? Because that way I can actually see it. I don't want to do a poll. What habits do you need to develop or commit to? Because here's the thing. We may want to do something different, but in order to do something different, we have to do things differently. So what habits do you need to develop or commit to in order to do things differently? Oh, Veronica says she needs to be consistent. Now that is being transparent and honest, and I respect that. Thank you for that. I read a couple years back a book, my cousin and I were talking about this earlier, the 5 a.m. Club. And I don't know why here in these days, I'm fortunate enough that December 7th will be my last day here at AT&T. And I have, for some reason, my body has gone back to that 5 a.m. wake up thing and that 5 a.m. Morning start. But I gotta admit, it's a fantastic thing to do, to get up and have that private time to really get started on yourself and working on things before others really come into play. I like it. I like it. So there were some others. Oh, stop procrastinating. And I'm gonna call out procrastination because I'm like really guilty of that. Procrastination is my thing. Now, there is a difference between procrastinating and taking it all in so that you have all of the information that you need in order to be successful. Thanks so much, Vanessa. I appreciate that. Yeah. But there's a difference between those two, and I think a distinct difference. But yes, what habits do you need to develop, team? I like that, Deidre, scheduling monthly meetings. See things through all the way to closure. Speaking, please speak up, Yvonne. Please speak up and share more. I need you to share more. I need you to be there. Okay, all right. So I need us to create these new habits in order to drive the type of change that we're talking about. In order to move, all right, good for you. In order for us to move the business forward. Okay, so we have to make some changes in order for that to happen. All right, good stuff. I think we get it, right? There's no bad or wrong here. We just want to make sure that we have very good habits. We want to make sure that we're not pointing when we're looking out the window, and we're not smiling when we're in the mirror, taking claim and victory to things that don't necessarily belong to us. When it's an us, it's a team. We want to be introspective if we're talking about self. We want to be very culturally aware, not just to our own, but to others and to differences. We want to make sure that we're creating an environment, a space, and a place that builds trust, because trust takes time, right? We don't just get there overnight. It takes us a while to get to that space. And in this particular time, when you're being a leader and you're looking at it from a mirror view, that's when you're doing critical thinking in the moment, okay? But when you turn and you look out the window, right? That's when you become a little bit more empathetic. And think about it. Empathy also plays into our how we connect aspirations, right? AT&T says, let's go back to the blue for a second. AT&T says how we connect, the 16 attributes, the behaviors that drive how we connect within the business. If we get these right, and remember that these are internal suggestions, doesn't have anything to do with industry. These are the 16 behaviors that AT&T said we have to demonstrate if we want to do the business right. So empathy is one of those things. Is this an opportunity for you to show that leadership perspective, looking out at others and how you show up and how other people see you? A way to do that is to be empathetic, to recognize the needs of other people. And I can't tell you, feedback, again, it's a gift. You got to talk about it and you got to ask people, how am I doing? And when you don't know something, learn. Hey, Quad, we did a really good job a little while ago, didn't we? We've all learned and trained each other. Yeah, there's a listing of those 16 behaviors somewhere. Hey, do me a favor there, George. Send me that as a follow-up item as well, and I'll make sure that I include, as a matter of fact, I'll throw the slide in there, save it, and you guys can share the slide, and it'll have all 16 behaviors on there, okay? All right. We're going to build relationships long term because that's what gets us there. It's the people who know you, who don't know you, who know of you, who could say, hey, you know what? That person might be a good person for something. That's windowship. That's window leadership. And then being a strategist, where we started, is the idea of being able to successfully look out and at others. Derek, before I get ready to absolutely wrap that up, I want to just draw you back into this conversation one more time. What additional ads would you make or would you give for us as a team? What do you want to share with us about that window leadership perspective? Anything?
One thing I would share is that as you develop yourself as a leader, it only strengthens your opportunity to develop others, to meld with others. It improves relationships. Yeah, I would say that.
Yeah, that was a mic drop moment, right? Absolutely. Because we didn't even know where you were going with it and you nailed it for us. So thank you so much. I appreciate that partnership. I mean, that's it. I don't need to say anything else because he just said it. So with that, a leader is someone who nourishes, right? Who invokes the best qualities in people and creates an opportunity for people to bring them their best selves, to bring the ideas to the table. I know you sit in a leadership capacity, but please be open and receptive to the idea of hearing another idea that may just make your idea better. Okay. We want to create a very strong, healthy organization. That's what we want. That's what we want for the network. That's what I envision, have always envisioned, and will always be praying for when it comes to the network. I know we only have a couple of minutes, and I know George wants to be sure to send you guys a survey and get that cared for. But I will commit that, although I am a limited timer now, if you have any specific questions for me, if there's something that you want to just reach out and grab some time on the calendar before I get up out of here, calendar is wide open. Feel free to do that. George, I'm going to ask you to collect any questions. Derek as well, anything that you may have had or seen in chat. Pull those together and I will follow up and get the answers to those questions in writing and get that over to you. I have absolutely enjoyed my time being here with each and every single one of you. And I mean that holistically. I am a member of the network. I will be a retired member of the network, and I will be watching and cheering each of you from the bleachers. So with that, it is back to you. Thank you so much, George, for having me.
Yusha, thank you so much. And just like you said, well, first of all, congratulations on your retirement. And just because you require me, you're not going to get away from the network family that easy. We are definitely going to keep our arms around you and stay in touch with you to make sure that we keep all these nuggets of wisdom coming along the way. Thank you again. And as everyone, as Yusha mentioned, I dropped the link to the survey in the chat. We'll also be sending that out to everyone, and we will presentation as well. Once the recording is made available, we'll share that link with everyone. Again, thank you all so much for attending today. Thank you, Yusha. Thank you, Derek. Derek, congratulations on your new role. Everyone, please stay safe, stay healthy, and have a wonderful holiday season. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shay. Thank you, George.
Oh, you're
Thank you,
welcome.
Derek.
Thank you. Thank you, Power Group, George, Derek's, and Derek. You guys are absolutely awesome. Way to do it. Great team dynamic.
Thank you and congrats.
Thanks.
Congrats. Yes. Take care, everyone.